Well, sorry, I'm done. Mr. Owl. All right, good evening, everybody. I think we will get started so we can make our way through everything. Welcome. Let's see if we have new people. We have Francesca. Do you quickly want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm currently working at the Bitterroot Supervisor's Office in place of Anna, and then overlapping with Anna, so I'm the fire prevention officer there currently, and I come from New Mexico for the Cedar National Forest, but fought a lot of fire in this area over the years.
So expect nothing less, fire prevention.
Yeah, hopefully not. I don't know.
Anyone else's first meeting? All right, well, welcome everybody. Do we have anyone new on Zoom?
We have Thayer, Kimberly, and Melissa. And can one of you let us know if you can hear us?
I can hear you.
Great, we can't hear you, so I need to switch that
I think it's just maybe
speaker.
yeah, speaker, and there should be an owl. Okay. All right, so let's get started. I wanted to give a quick reminder. We will talk about voting in a second, but make sure that you've signed in. And that if you want to vote next year, you need 20 hours this year. We may vote tonight on the communications plan. Everyone that is here should be eligible to vote if you're not an agency person, I think. But so, and we can go to the next slide. I wanted to just point this out. I didn't say that at the last meeting. We're only going to send out one email between meetings from here on. So it will contain the notes from the previous meeting and the agenda for the next meeting. In the past, it was 2 emails, right after the meeting with the notes and then another with the agenda. But that is quite time consuming. So watch for one email. Also, I know a lot of people have not been getting the emails. It either goes to junk or somehow just disappears into the abyss. So I'm going to change that. Your email will no longer come from the MailChimp. I will forward it from the Fire and the Root Gmail. So you should now be receiving that in your inbox because it'll just be coming from a Gmail. So look for that. Okay, I think that was that. Next item on the agenda is old business, and I'm gonna let Judy cover that.
We just want to talk about perhaps some people have been confused about the agenda and the opportunities to request an item to be placed on the agenda. And we just wanted to clarify that you can request that we spend time on a certain agenda item, and then we can talk about it as a team and see if it fits in best in the following meeting or not. And it can be whatever subject you want to talk about, but particularly, we don't want anybody who feels like they've been cut off or dismissed or their ideas haven't been fully heard. We definitely want to hear from you, because we're not trying to cut anybody off.
Yeah, and on that, if we do end up cutting you off, it's just for the sake of time. So in that case, definitely request that we just continue the discussion on that item at the next meeting.
Mhm. And we also thought it would be a good idea to read the council's mission statement. And we said in the beginning, when we put it together, that it could be a flexible mission statement. If we find the need to change it, we can discuss that. So currently, the council mission is, the Fire in the Root Council's mission is to promote and facilitate the long-term reduction of risk from wildfire and adaptation to wildfire by communities and residents throughout Ravalli County. And that's fairly broad, but those of us who were around back then know we spent many meetings trying to hash that out, and we had it narrower and we made it broader, and we went back and forth, and this is what we ended up with. So if we find through discussions that people think we need to consider changing that, then we'll consider doing that and putting that to a vote. And also Byron and Dave will be discussing the fuels group in a later part of the,
Just after the
Agenda.
financial report, yep.
and hopefully that will address some of the concerns that have been raised prior to this meeting.
Any comments on what Judy had just said? All right. I think then, Kristen is going to go over the financial report quick and should be up.
Yeah, it is all up there. Essentially, we have about $1,800 that's available. That total includes costs of all of our potential or projects that the outreach team is currently working on. So that money I've encumbered, it might not have been spent already. Most of it hasn't actually been spent. But we've got estimates and we know that's approximately what's going to be spent. So we did really good because we were going to be spending over. That $1,800 that's available, it includes the $2,000 for the landscaping brochure being taken out of additional DNRC funds. And so that's helping us have some flexibility there. But we do have some working funds here for a couple months. And so there are things to think about how we might want to spend that. We are, as I'll talk about in the outreach team report, we're doing billboards, we've got totes, we're gonna, excuse me, do some radio messaging, maybe even some TV in there. But we can add to any of those, and the landscaping brochure may cost a little bit more. And so having those funds is not a bad thing. But if you have ideas for a project that the outreach team is not already considering, then let us know, because there are some funds to play with, at least for 2 months. So.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, the last item on the agenda is ideas for projects, right? So you can think about it now or then come back to us later, but those are the kind of things that Kristen is referring to. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, last time we spent a lot of time talking about the financials. If anyone has any questions or comments on that?
I have a question, it's not about this is fine, I'm glad we've got that much left, but I just read, and I can't remember where I read it, that USDA has released a good chunk of grant money recently, and I didn't know if we were, because our CWPP is not completed yet, we don't get to get into that.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, that's a big push for getting that CWPP.
I thought that's why we weren't.
But there are multiple rounds. So hopefully the CWPP will be done in time for us to apply for the next round. Yeah.
And on that line, one key thing for the CWPP is to access the infrastructure bill funding that is coming down. Your CWPP needs to very specifically state those projects in order to have those grant funds to have the most success for getting those grant funds. And so we need to keep that in mind as we're developing that CWPP. Be really specific in those projects, and you have a greater likelihood of tapping into those funds. And it is a 5-year cycle, so we will have time to tap into.
Yeah, and we know of a group that got some of the funding.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's worth, having Cindy. It's Cindy,
Super,
Super, yeah, Cindy Super, come talk to us via Zoom. She'd probably love that. To tell us what they put into that grant application, and they got $1 million or something. Right? And that's Northern.
It's Blackfoot Challenge, so they are in the Ovando area
Yes.
from Bonner, kind of Ovando. So.
Just not from here. So that, because that would be helpful to hear how they went through the process, and it is nice to know that there has been success.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions on the finances? All right. So the next item, I briefly touched on that, is the voting process. Again, it's not I don't think it's a problem tonight, because no one that's here should not be allowed to vote on, agency people don't vote. If you are new, so if you did not attend last year, then you need to have attended at least 3 meetings this year to vote. That means, including tonight, you should have been here for all the meetings, but I don't think we have anyone here that falls into that. So everyone that's here should be able to vote tonight. What has been decided before my time is that in general, we'll just vote by show of hands, and the majority will count. If it's an issue where people feel uncomfortable voting by show of hands, then we have little ballots, and we can vote anonymously that way. Tonight's votes can be on the communication plan, so I don't think that's a controversial issue. It should be fine voting by show of hands, but we figured this is the first time a vote will happen, so we wanted to make sure everyone is clear on that process. Anyone unsure, question? Oh, and the Zoomers will be allowed to vote. Are there Zoomers that are?
They can do a thumbs up.
Yeah, they can just do a thumbs up or. Yeah, all right.
There's agency.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's even there that can vote.
Maybe, I think they're all supporting an organization, so I don't know, unless Melissa wanted to vote. I don't know.
Okay, we'll do that when we get there. All right. So then next up, Dave and Byron.
Can you help me out for a second? What specific question do you want us to?
I think maybe give the group some background on what was the origin of the Fuels Coordination Group, what you do now, and the reason. So last month, we'll just address the elephant in the room. People were uncomfortable with the fact that we said we are going to remove the Fuels Group from under Fire in the Root, right? And the reason that happened was that the reason that it was there in the first place, Dave will explain. It wasn't voted in, it was never to involve community members. It was really for coordination among agencies. And then a little bit on the NEPA process, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So a couple of months ago, the Forest Service decided with all of the different partners that we're trying to collaborate with, that it'd be best if we had a twice per month or every other week meeting where we invited all the different partners that we're working with and or trying to work with. So that includes DNRC, Montana Fish Wildlife and Parks. That includes all our district fuel specialists. That includes RC&D, NRCS, Pheasants Forever, Turkey Federation, and Blue Forest, and I'm probably missing a couple others, and Melissa and her group are involved with that as well. So that was designed to be kind of like a coordination / implementers meeting. So for an example, On the West Fork District, there's two different agreements that have been initiated. One with, that we're working on closing out is with the DNRC for grant, Good Neighbor, thank you. Thanks, Matt. A Good Neighbor Authority to hire foresters to coordinate doing implementation on the national forest, of which is gonna use $3 million that was awarded to the national forest for that kind of work. Another agreement is the Forest Service working with Blue Forest and an individual named Michael Brown, you may have heard his name, who represents Blue Forest and Pheasants Forever, to utilize hiring a Pheasants Forever forester to help coordinate treatments across private, state, and national forest land for the intent to be efficient with contracting. So, you know, imagine a Venn diagram and we all have like our ownership. And then as borders overlap and we want to treat in that Venn diagram, we can potentially solicit contractors to do treatment on the national forest, private, and any other neighboring like ownership. So that was the intent with pulling that group together, was to coordinate across these partners, across different agencies to try and grow efficiency and grow opportunity, see where those edge matches were occurring.
Yeah, and the Pheasant Forever and Blue Forest agreement, basically is gonna be between the Forest Service and Blue Forest and Pheasant Forever. And then we're gonna have a separate agreement with RC&D, with Blue Forest and Pheasant Forever. And, so even though we are separate, we really aren't because of this coordination effort. What we're trying to do is do cross-boundary projects. And I don't know if you referred to it, but this whole idea behind Blue Forest and Pheasants Forever is to do up the West Fork. Okay, so like from Darby, clear up the West Fork. And then if we can later on enter into an agreement with Blue Forest to do some of the rest of Ravalli County, we will. But we're gonna concentrate mainly on the West Fork.
Yeah, in the next year or two is kind of the primary focus area. So with that said, are there any questions kind of about the intent behind that group? Okay. And so if there was some confusion around that group and the fuel subcommittee to fire and the root, it was those two, the lines on those two got blurred because a lot of us serve or could potentially have served in both, and we were just trying to reduce the number of meetings we had.
Yeah.
And so this meeting that we're doing twice a month is a working meeting.
And NEPA, can you give a,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how familiar everyone is. I took a few notes, so I hope it's the thoughts I have are audience appropriate, but so the NEPA process in general, you know, was initiated years ago for the intent of analyzing possible projects on, and in my view, on the national forest, the effects of doing treatment on the national forest. And so the way that goes about is a specialist will see a need on the national forest typically. In our case, for treatment, they'll make a proposal. The NEPA team, which consists of specialists across all the disciplines, including fuels, silviculture, hydrology, wildlife, soils, all, you know, all resources are represented with specialists. And they kind of discuss how big is the project, how complex is the project, what is the right NEPA authority for the project? Is it simple and we can do a categorical exclusion? Is it complex and we need to do like an EA or an EIS? And so the complexities are really typically tied to treatment type. So the more commercial it might involve, commercial treatment being wood that's removed from the national forest and goes to a processing plant to be made into 2x4s or paper or chips for chipboard or something. If there's a commercial value, that adds complexity. If there's threatened or endangered species, that adds complexity. If there's anything particularly sensitive, that adds complexity. And so then they'll assemble, determine kind of the right size of NEPA, and eventually they'll put out for scoping after they've kind of done their analysis for the treatments that want to be done, which could be a suite of commercial treatments, non-commercial treatments. We're talking veg, so silt, timber, silviculture, commercial, non-commercial, prescribed burning. What effects do those potentially have? Units identified, mapped, and then it goes out to scoping where the public makes, for a comment period, they can make their recommendations, how they feel about what it might do and why they may not like it. And then, oh, I kind of skipped a part there. There would be some alternatives developed in the process. So do we do commercial and non-commercial? Do we do non-commercial only, or do we do nothing at all? And what are the impacts of doing nothing at all? So those are just some hypothetical examples. And then the control is nothing at all, right? So then a decision eventually is made by what we refer to as a line officer, so district ranger, forest supervisor, about which of those options are a combination of most effective, least invasive, and kind of weighs the pros and cons of the impacts to all the resources that the disciplines identified, and then move toward implementation. I hope that's not oversimplified or overstated for the group. I honestly don't know where everyone's head is on NEPA here, so, but that's an attempt to kind of summarize the concepts.
Does anyone have any questions for Dave or Byron on the process or the Fields group? The idea right now is to have someone from that Fields group come and give an update here, like every quarter or something like that, or if there's a project in the works or something like that. So not every month. And the group is no longer under Fire in the Root, and that is not because we're wheeling and dealing or talking in the background. It is just because that is how it evolved, and that the purpose of how that group formed was kind of fulfilled, and they're just going.
Yeah, I think too, to kind of address some of the questions I heard that might have come out of the last meeting, is the difference between what the Fire in the Root Fuels Subcommittee might have intended to do was provide some kind of direction for Fire in the Root and how Fire in the Root should support or not support projects. So as opposed to what we are is a coordination of implementation across ownership boundaries.
So in reality, if we give an update every quarter, let's say, you're gonna be the group that is gonna be in the know in terms of what the projects are on a quarterly basis. And so when we have our 2 meetings every month, this coordination group, we'll be discussing those projects. We'll be discussing private and all these other agencies' projects to see where we can marry those up to get the biggest bang for our buck to meet the intent. And basically the intent is to reduce fire risk in this valley. So I think it's critical that you all understand that every quarter we're going to give you an update on all these projects that we're going to be implementing, and the importance of why we're implementing those projects. I think it's important for all of you to know, and you'll be some of the first people to know about these projects that will be planning. So,
Yeah, to highlight kind of. The mission statement that Judy read, which was, and I don't wanna oversimplify that, but. To coordinate the reduction of wildfire impacts to the public. The projects we discussed in this coordination. Implementation group is because of the nature of. Cross boundary really primarily exists down in the urban interface. So that's the type of work we're talking about, that's the type of work Fire and Root's interested in. Primarily interested in this type. And yeah, whether it's fire and me, that'll be the intent of the update is to speak to work in the urban interface.
just to let all of you know, for the Bitterroot RC&D, we've currently got, I just recounted, Judy, we got 39 applicants that they haven't been able to get to because of funding issues. We have limited funding in Ravalli County. And those 39 applicants, they cover 1,200 acres in the urban interface. So we're kind of waiting on funding, kind of waiting on Pheasants Forever for this MOU, draft MOU is coming out between us and them. And so we're just, we're prepped to do a lot of work. And like we mentioned, cross boundary work between national forest and private to help protect those properties.
Thank you.
If I can just say one more thing, of all those groups that I talked about, particularly I want to highlight the private entities or the non-governmental organizations. Pheasants Forever, Turkey Federation. We often work with the Elk Foundation and or solicit work and monies from Mule Deer Foundation. These are programs that want to do work with us because they're work that support their resource. And they see it as work that supports the public as well. So when we throw out these different partners, it's not just to like, what's the social queuing of naming or name, I don't mean to name drop, I mean to mention it because those organizations by and large are kind of resource conservation benefit oriented groups that align with the national forest values.
I have a question. The $3 million, is that a compiled amount of money or is that from one grant? Because you have so many organizations, was that a little bit from everybody? Or-
Well, how we decide or choose to try and utilize the funds doesn't necessarily speak to how the grant money came. So that came through an application grant through the Department of Natural Resources. And in that specific case, part of it, nearly a third, will be used to fund foresters on the DNRC side that would look to do implementation in calendar year 24 on the national forest. So what that does and why we do that is the state has a lot more flexibility in their ability to hire employees than the national forest. Maybe you can get them hired more quickly and adds capacity to the national forest. And it adds skills to their employee set as well. Does that answer some of your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I'm a visual guy, so strategizing, I'm a map guy, so, it's always nice to see your progress. So I'm assuming by twice a year, once a year, or do you have a website to track the projects or? How can we see it visually? Yeah, the Bitterroot Valley, that's a pretty big, landscape.
Do we post that, guys? Do we post that?
Yeah, we post this year's prescribed fire is on AGOL.
Oh, okay,
It's an AGOL, the public database,
yep,
and
Yep.
it's all on there for the Forest.
Now,
Now,
speak, what he's asking is a little bit all, we did what we planned and might do for prescribing. And what you're asking for is,
All
can we go to one place to see what updates of what's getting done?
yeah,
We don't have a great website currently that shows our other treatments, but we're trying to develop a story map that. Dynamic and living that does show that, we don't have a good product.
yeah, no,
We have a good one for Stride Fire, we don't have one that shows our.
yeah, and I'm sure with the community wildfire protection plan, it probably would help too.
And that hasn't come up part of the The CWTP update is talking about a story map that we'll probably incorporate that to some degree too.
And then future planning too.
Yeah, sounds good, yeah.
So West Fork has done a lot of work on the Mud Creek, which has really been impressive. I don't know, it doesn't cover the whole forest, but they've done some overlays on Google Earth that you can look at, and they've actually, that's a little hard to work through, but they do have on the current Mud Creek project, they posted a map, which really has numbered units and treatment color codes.
Yeah, if I may address that too, for a sec, what they're doing, because that's. And I didn't get into the weeds with the types of NEPA, but because that's a condition-based NEPA. What they've done in the public outreach process is have planned, scheduled, phased approaches to not just the treatment but to describing to the public what they intend to do. I think that's what you're referring to.
And I mean, it's a little, they're getting better at getting it out, I would say, but it has been helpful to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, in the case of the two partnership type agreements I described with the GNA, Pheasants and Blue Forest, those are on the Mud Creek projects as well. Those are intended to do implementation in mud. In the area where RCND plans to do treatment on private.
I'm trying to translate that into what I see on the map, and I'm not sure if I can, but okay.
Yeah,
It doesn't say on the map who's doing it, I guess.
No,
It's just
no.
exactly.
just like it wouldn't say if we put a timber sale out for sale, who got the contract. Like, the work that's planned to be done. Doesn't necessarily disclose who, all, how, and why. It just said, this is what we're trying to do, this is what the end product should look like.
It typically comes with a time, some kind of temporal piece there, fiscal year 23, 24.
I wonder, and I don't know how big of an ask this is, but if we get you guys to come do an update quarterly, if at that point, some maps could be available. You know, not super detailed, but maybe just of projects that have been done or that's being done, basic things. I don't know how big the ask is for the
I
GIS
don't think
people.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, and we can, you know, give you enough heads up or, you know, plan a meeting long enough in
Well, let me
advance.
change how I answered that, I'm confident we can provide that.
Confident you can find the right person. May not be you.
Well, it won't be me.
Yeah, a visual is good.
Sure,
I also think, you know, I've seen some of the maps that Byron has, you know, for some of the treatments that RCND does, and it is good to put that in perspective to see what the size of the forest is and what the size of the treatments are, right? And so a map may be helpful.
yeah. She's
I saw his face.
laughing at me.
Okay, does that help to clarify some things? All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Dave and Byron. All right,
Did Byron have more to add?
did you have more to add? No.
No, there's a lot of other projects going on and I don't want to get into that right now, but I will. In fact, I'll provide a map at the next
Okay.
time we do the fuels.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I think we'll move on to I think it's a CWPP update, that. You took your jacket off and suddenly I could not find you. I was like.
Did he skip out on me?
That
That was last month.
So,
Not pointing any fingers. So. Just a quick background on this, the CWPP update. The contract was awarded to DJ&A. And so the first of those meetings, the kickoff meeting, was the 27th of February. And it was basically just the mechanics of how we're gonna work together and who are we and how we're gonna work together. You know, real short meeting. And I kind of described that last time. And then the next one I said would be sometime on the 15th, which ended up being scheduled on the 15th, and it went over a review of the framework document. And the framework document is really just it's basically just an outline of what the document will look like, and it's largely prescribed by this Community Wildfire Protection Plan Guidebook, 2022 guidebook from DNRC. So this is available through Fire and Root for anybody that wants to read it.
You read it online.
Yeah, you can read it. You can read it online.
Where at?
It's on DNRC, isn't it?
Yeah, we got it on our website, but it's on.
You can just search it.
Right.
Just Google it.
It's on the Fire and Root site, on the DNRC site. It will, yeah, and it will be on the story map probably also, once, which we'll get to in just a minute here. So we did a little editing of the framework document in that March 15th meeting. And so that came back, the edited framework document came back for the March 29th meeting. And so we have an edited version of the framework document. And I can get that sent out to everybody on the CWPP, Fire and the Root CWPP update team that wants it. I want to send it to everybody. And anyone else who wants it, I can send it. Eventually, we'll get all this stuff on a shared drive. Right now, it's not up and running, and lots of people don't like those anyway. But for now, the framework document can go out to all the update team for Fire and the Root, and anybody else that wants it, give me a high sign and an email address before we leave tonight, and I'll get that out this week. And then the decision was made to move forward, well, I talked about project schedule and on the March 15th meeting. And the discussion was, well, can we get the story map going earlier? And the decision was made in the March 29th meeting that yes, we can get the story map going earlier, and we will, and it'll basically be lots of background information to start with. But as it matures, as the project matures, there'll be more things that are relevant to discussion and decisions and input from the group. And Euresta will go over a story map from another county, right, as soon as we're done talking here, so that everybody can see what one is, because it's really not a very good name, you know?
Yeah, because who knows what a story map is, or what do you, or what do you think is a story map?
Because it's not a map, you know?
And it's not
It's not a story, you know? And you think, well, what is it, you know?
Yeah.
And there are other terms that would have been better, but they're taken by other things. So whatever else it is, it's a story map. And we'll look at one in a minute, so we all have kind of a common understanding of what a CWPP story map, update story map looks like for somewhere else.
then and ours will mature into something like that. So. So we'll cover that in a minute, and then the last item. Was started work on the WUI definition and discussion and. On the definition, so. That it's just getting started, Fire and Root obviously. Has a definition already as developed for fire by Fire and Root, so that's an obvious contribution to the core team. And that's probably the most, well, not probably, it is the only substantive thing. Going so far out of the core team. The rest of it's pretty mechanical. Let's get up and going. Here's how we're going to approach this. And so I think the CWPP, the Fire and the Root CWPP update team probably needs to meet pretty soon to get our oars in the water relative to the WUI definition and get all on the same page as far as what we're thinking and how we're thinking about it. So I'll make those contacts via email this week. And the Bitterroot Supervisor's Office is available for meetings, which would be a useful thing for all of us, because we can have people who can't attend in person on some kind of Zoom or Microsoft Teams, some kind of Zoom or Teams, and then have a recording of that for people who couldn't make it at that time, and then they can provide input to the rest of us via email, discussions at the meeting, or phone calls, or whatever works for people. So that's kind of the short version of that. Had 3 meetings. And getting some substance going with the WUI definition and that discussion. And more of the mechanical details we'll put online or email out. And so I'll open it up for any questions, but not about story maps. We'll have that story map questions after we look at a story map. If there's any other questions for what I just reported.
Where is that redefinition preferred? Is there a place required in the council?
What's
There is an existing.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a Fire and the Root.
Yeah, no. We can.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did, and it was.
For the commission.
Yeah.
Every time we do it was.
You made it more painful.
It's probably in the notes for the application when we did our presentation for the commissioners. I don't think it's on our website. I think it's in our notes when we did the commissioners meeting.
Was it in one of the letters?
It might be in one of the letters, but I know it's not. We didn't put that on the website.
We did it before the commission.
Yeah, which is not on the list.
That is like this. We wanted to, well, and what factors, like other things.
It's just a 3 meetings to that.
No.
So, a year ago, and not everybody here.
Right, but that would be a good start, right? That would be a good place.
You are right. And no, we wisely did not dive into this. And it was purposeful. Not to. We have our mission statement, but we've already read that a couple of times.
I think we can find it.
We'll pull it up
So
for next
I
meeting and put it
will-
on the agenda.
We'll
Send it to you guys.
And
You can look at it.
send it out with
Yeah, we'll locate it and send it to Ken, then wherever it
I
is.
have it in my notes here someplace, but I can't put my hands on it right this second. And I do remember we did it before this meeting and then decided not to include it in the presentation.
Right, we had it, so it's not really.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah, no one voted on it.
Is there any other questions? On the CWPP for Ken or for any of the 14 members?
I really like the idea of having some definition. Because sometimes it's way too much ambiguity, because Judy had mentioned, too, we're a spectrum of people, we're not, you know, we're not myopic, we're not looking at a single view. And so I would love some more definition. I like some definition about adaptation, some other things. I won't bring it up right now, but so this would be a good start for me. Those of you who know me for these other things, I am Mr. Glossary. I have hundreds of natural resources related to citation and other. So you can count on me. And I can send you my master glossary, just so you see what. I've told you many times, but it's not this way. So, anyway, yeah.
One quick question, so in terms of the scoping, that original part, so is the goal still to have something by the end of the year?
Yes, yeah, at the end.
We're on a schedule. We signed on.
Christmas present,
New Year.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
they're really.
that's not something we're gonna extend the contract on either, right?
Yep,
So,
yep,
so we have a contract timeline.
sounds good.
You know, and they're doing a lot of work, you know, it's just that it's pretty mechanical on the front end. You know, it's not that they're not working, they're doing a lot of stuff. So, we'll see it.
Yes.
All right, well, since I think many people have no idea what a scoring map is, I was just Googling and playing around and seeing what other states and counties and areas have done. I was really looking for CWPPs to look through, and then I came across this is Santa Clara County. So if you scroll down, please. So it starts this way, and I think that's what makes it a story map, is the fact that you really don't need to click anywhere. There are all these tabs at the top, but in theory, you just scroll and it automatically goes through that. So they started developing their CWPP very recently, so I think it's applicable because they're almost mirroring our timeline. They're a little bit ahead of us, but I think this is maybe what our story map will look like in the beginning, because a lot of it's just background information, and then there's a lot of pages that just says coming soon, because it's information that will still come as they develop it. See, they're working on their 2023 CWPP, so it's also very recent. But you know, so things change on the side, but then there's information coming up. And you know, so they give background information. They said in there somewhere who their contractor is that they're using. But here they have their public involvement. See, now it popped onto the next tab at the top, but Anna was just scrolling. And then here they list where their meetings, see, their meetings were in December, so it's pretty recent. So I suspect once they put ours up, it'll list those dates, right? Once those are available for the public meetings. So from the beginning, we will know where we can go and look for information. And as information come available, as the CWPP gets developed, they'll just keep adding in, because you'll see if, you know, there it says coming soon, because they're still working on their WUI definition, right? So it's not in there yet. And so on and so forth. Here they have some maps, and that's what you guys said, maybe in the CWPP and the storyboard, they will be actual maps, right? But so coming soon, so that's what I suspect our initial version will look like, and they'll just keep updating it as information comes available.
I have a comment on the splash page. So we just, in the county that I just came from, or the forest I came from in New Mexico, we just got our CWPP signed. And they created a splash page similar to this. I meant to share it with you, but it's really, a lot easier to navigate. I don't know how many of you have read CWPPs, but ours was like a 250-page document. And you have no idea what section to go to get the nitty-gritty. So the whole point of the splash page was kind of for the public to actually understand what they're looking at, and anyone really.
Right.
But yeah, that it's super important. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, if I had known that, you could have presented.
I know, I meant to.
No, but this is fine. I like this.
It's what I did it.
Yeah, and I like this because I think this is what ours would
Good job.
at least start out as, right? So you think, oh, but it's not gonna be finished, but there's information there, it's just not the complete picture yet, but it will make it clearer for all of us for whom the CWP is just this weird concept, right? And it's so hard to wrap your head around it, right? So, by no means, I don't know how exactly it would look like. The contractors, I'm sure, all have their, work cut out for them and how they do it. But, go Google a few. What was your?
It's the Bernalillo County CWPP.
Maybe.
Doesn't Missoula have one too?
Yeah.
Or the
Missoula has,
CWPP?
It's
I think
This is
we've
a
looked
great
at.
example of one that like will look
Yeah.
like ours. Because it's progressing. Yeah, but Missoula has a finished story because they did theirs in 2018. So if you wanna, which we covered that a year ago, I think, when we were looking at pushing this. And so we sent out that link, but if you just Google Missoula County CWPP, you'll get their story map and you can see what a finished story map, what ours ideally will look like. at the
Well,
end.
can you look that up quick? Judy says theirs look more like
Oh, shoot.
a storybook.
Yes.
Way of typing.
And we haven't solidified a story map structure either, so that's still kind of in the works. So if anybody has input on what they want that to look like, that's where the CWPP input team from Fire and the Root and speaking with Ken, that can make it back to the core team, and that's where you folks can really have input on how you would like it to look and how you can interpret it easier, being from the public or Fire and the Root or whoever, might take a look at it. But they are pretty handy.
And we know the content now, but not the form. We know that it's gonna have historic fire, it's gonna have whatever we end up with.
The process.
Obviously.
It looks like it's broken or there's security stuff here. I can't get into it.
We can't access that right now, so pick back with us later. Coming soon.
Sorry.
That's what?
You is doing the story map.
They have their own, they already started it's not a story map, it's something else. But they had already started something on their own, so they're gonna be updating it, but they do have like a public interface similar to a story map. I can't remember what it's called.
So basically, it's just a document about what's happening. It's
yeah.
a summary, and then you go to where there's more detail with pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interactive usually.
Yeah.
There's some maps you can scan before, after, tree fire, post fire, fire history, up to this
Yeah.
point. There's way more interactive pieces. to it.
Yeah.
Our GIS specialists on the forest are getting better at using that to tell all kinds of different stories. It's not just fire, CWPP stuff.
Well, and it also acts as like a one-stop shop for the CWPP. Like you can have links, everything's on that. Instead of having to jump to multiple locations or websites.
Like that homeowner resources page that has all these links.
Yeah.
That homeowner can go to.
Yeah.
Look up information.
Well, and it'll give us a place to send people when we're explaining to them about the CWPP. And it's here, this is the website, QR code.
Everything you ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
And it's not clunky, you think of some websites where you have to click here and then click there, and if you can just scroll through it like that, that's really nice for any person to use.
Yeah, they're pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I looked at this one the other day after we talked, and it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And we have so much of the background material now, there's not much point in waiting till later to start. The background material's not gonna change anyway.
All right, does anyone have any other questions? Then we can move on so we stay on. No. All good, and Ken will be in touch with the CWPP Fire and the Route team and set up a meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so next, I will just give a brief update on the assessment team. We met. Maybe it's 2 weeks ago, or so. We're about to start with assessments, like middle of April, so like 2 weeks away. Hopefully no more snow falls. And then it's picking up pretty quick. I think we have most that we had requested scheduled at this point. We asked people to indicate which communities that they wanted to be involved in, and so those people will be contacted when we do assessments in an area. I asked that if you do receive an email, just RSVP and say if you think you can make it to that assessment, so that we don't have 13 people showing up at a landowner's home. You know, if 13 people RSVP, I may just split you up and say wait for the next one. Let me see. And then there is training coming next week. Thursday and Friday is training. What's the acronym there, Kristen?
It is assessing structure ignition potential, and it is by NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association.
Yeah, so some of the assessment team and people will be attending that, which would be pretty neat to have some more formal training. But then we are also planning a training day on May 13th, and I'll let Kristen quickly talk about that, and then after that she will go into the outreach team update. So
it's me for a bit, sorry.
I was like, man, if we're running short, Kristen's gonna use all the time.
So yes, and one thing on that structure ignition potential course, they have 2 openings. As of today, they have 2 openings, without
Maybe 3 now, because I can't go on those dates and I was invited.
Okay.
Yeah, 4, because I'm not going on it. Yeah, it's a lot.
Great opportunity. It's about 12 to 13,000 to bring this training to a place. And so like it's a huge opportunity. So if it's something that you can find the time, it's full 2 8-hour days, 1.5 days in classroom, and then a half day actually going out and doing an assessment on the home. But it's a great opportunity. We as a council will be providing a training on May 13th. As of right now, we're tentatively scheduling it Saturday, May 13th. Our goal is to make it a half a day, so a whole morning into lunch, and have about 2 hours in the classroom, and then go out and do a couple assessments. Ideally, an assessment on a low risk home, so you can kind of see what to do and what a great Firewise home looks like, and then an assessment on a higher risk home, just so you can see that definition. And we're gonna do kind of an in-house training, but I am going to try and work with what we've got from our standardized program that the DNRC is working on and trying to implement statewide. And so I'm gonna try and marry them up as much as possible. But so pencil in May 13th, if you can. I think even if you don't plan on doing any assessments, it's a really good skill to have or experience to have, so you understand what we're looking at, how we assess these homes. And because if you're at any event, or if you're talking to your neighbors, you want to be able to explain what we do, what it entails, and having that firsthand experience will only help. So if you have any questions on it too, just reach out to Eurista, Judy, myself, or Anna, or Francesca. So.
And it's been my hope that if we suggested to everybody on the council that they either have an assessment done on their own home or follow along on one that's being done, everybody should have an idea and just spend a
Yeah.
couple of hours
Great
and go watch. If you
Yeah.
don't want it done on your own home.
But we are happy to come to your home. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to. Have that benefit of us coming and getting that information and then you getting that experience.
I will add, we are ordering name tags for the assessment team and the outreach team. I emailed all of you, and we can make a tag for you, if you're not on those teams, but those are the people that will either be doing assessments or at outreach events and have a name tag. It'll have Fire in the Roots logo on it. So if you receive that email and you want a name tag, it'll be a magnetic tag. Send me your name as you want it to appear. I don't know how much space we have. A few people asked for affiliations to be added. I don't know if that's gonna work, but I will see what I can do to satisfy everybody. But please respond to that. I want to place that order on Friday.
And then Meg, I read your email and I thought,
Yeah, the magnetic ones that
what
have
do they say?
magnetic backing, so.
Two piece.
They're two, yeah, they're two pieces. So there's the inside.
Yeah, I don't have-
You got your gun?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Usually have.
Yeah, so it's a magnet on the back and then the front and then, yeah,
Really, really well.
yeah. Don't put them near a credit card, but they work really well. And they look really nice, you can position them, they don't damage your clothes or anything like that.
And we did look at vests and we look at lanyards and actually, honestly, cost efficiency wise, the name tags were the best, especially for the purposes. Because
Right.
like doing assessments, you're outside, wind's blowing, like there were a lot of other considerations.
So, yeah.
What a
just-
thought went into that.
And in the end,
I was certain there's lots of thought, and there was lots of discussion before. But I couldn't figure out how a magnetic one would work, because I don't have any little kids anymore, obviously.
yeah, I can't even demonstrate it, but yeah. There we go, got it.
Okay.
All right, so please send me your name as you want it to appear, if you want to tag, and I'll place the order on Friday, and we'll hope for the best. It's just on Amazon, so you gonna be what it's gonna be, but your name will be on it. All right, I think that's all I have on the assessment, so Kristen, the floor is yours.
Okay. The outreach team, we met on March 30th and have been working on a number of items. A recap on some of the events that we had. The Be Prepared booth was March 11th and it was extremely successful. We were really happy. We made at least a minimum of 120 direct contacts. That was people we were talking to. And had 11 assessment requests come out of that, which is amazing for a short event like that. We have secured a billboard at the Woodside Crossing for 2 months. It'll be up May and June. And it on our agenda, it says a possible vote on that. You are not voting on it. We've decided in the outreach team. If you don't like it,
Then it's too
then
bad.
don't look at it. Drive by and look the other way, but it's gonna be the Are You Prepared, the one we showed you last time, but it's gonna be fire in the background, Are You Prepared? And our website with our logo on that, and so that will be up. The air quality project that Eurista is working on with the Bitterroot air quality or
Combine everything there in one. Climate action group.
Climate Action Group, thank you. I didn't know it. They have already purchased filters and are working on a magnet to put on the filters and a letter to send out and working with the Council on Aging to get those distributed. So that project is moving forward really fast. The relocation article in the article in the Relocation and Tourism magazine was accepted. Eurista did an awesome job at that. And so that I believe is being published and coming out in May.
It's what we think,
Maybe
we
two.
speculated on that.
So look for that and then totes are in the process of being ordered. I'm getting some proofs so we can pick out what we like best. They're gonna be a dark colored tote, reusable grocery totes. And but those are in process and we should have those hopefully in a month. The video of Byron doing his presentation is moving forward, hopefully will happen in April, and that's with the Forest Service pushing that, and the goal is to have that done in multiple forms by next fall. Judy's working on the landscaping brochure, and Rick is taking point on radio and TV ads and working to involve local college kiddos or high school kiddos to help with that. And you heard about Eurista doing the name tags. So get your information to her. Also, Facebook, she's been doing posts on council members, and we've gotten more likes on those posts than
anything fire related.
So obviously, those we need more. So if you haven't, do that. It's great. Just send a couple lines. You
And
don't.
we've noticed there's no guides that have volunteered.
I just got one, but I'm waiting for a few more, just so that it's not just one lonely post there by itself. Send me a few. Francesca, you can send me something too. We can just say you're just here temporarily, but yeah, send me just a picture and, you know, some background information. Go look at the post from other people and you can see what it is. You don't need to give me your resume or prove that you are qualified to be on the council. That's not what it's about. It's
And like our Facebook page.
yeah.
I really like there. That is it. Are there any questions on that part?
The training on the 15th. is that
Yes.
gonna be-
Rick is on.
Oh, yeah, it's the 13th and 14th.
I mean, the time of day.
Oh, on the May 13th. No, we haven't, but we'll send that out. So, it will probably be like 8:30, 9-ish. We just don't want it to go too far over lunch, but I can go into that area. So plan on 4 to 5 hours. So, and that's if you have a big hard stop, you can let us know too, because we can try to mold it around your schedule if we can make that work too. Because it's for us, right? So if us can't attend, then we'll do it differently. So, okay, so communication plan, we would like to vote and put this baby to bed. I did not receive any, or we didn't receive any feedback on this, and so, I'm hoping it should be good, but I, of course, did make one little change. So I want to bring that up to everybody, and if nobody has an issue with that, then I would love to vote on this. But if you do, then we'll work on this and vote next month. But I did feel it was important that we add a council description to the communication plan, because oftentimes media or somebody is gonna ask you, what are you? Right? And it would be a good idea if we all answered with a very similar response. And so I put council description in here. And so the council description I put was, we are a collaborative of residents, local business and interest groups, as well as local, state, and federal agencies working together to reduce the risk of wildfire in Ravalli County. Does everybody feel that is adequate, appropriate? Is there something I missed or something you would change in?
We cut one like that down a lot for the commissioners meeting. And
What did it say there?
it says, Fire in the Root Council is a local collaborative focused on implementing projects and coordinating wildfire preparedness and prevention activities throughout Ravalli County.
Oh, we could use that one too.
And that, this, I mean, we made it real short. And we started with a really long one.
Yeah, we should probably
When
start.
I think we started with that one,
Started
and
with
we
this
ended
one.
up with this one, but we shortened everything to
Yeah.
this. The mission statement's the only thing that came through without
Without-
being hacked and whacked.
Like, we can say that too. Like you're not bound to say by this, but this provides you with that. Oh, what are we? We're this, right? It gives you that kind of canned response if you want it. But yes, you can definitely go with that, and I can adopt that, and then. Like, we can vote on it with that included if you'd rather have that one. Yeah.
I would kind of like the one that you wrote first. Because it's shorter and hopefully we can memorize it if we are ever approached by. Somebody from like a journalist or something. Cause I was put on the spot last summer when we were at a booth. And I just sort of made something up and I have no idea what I really said.
Right.
Because I was surprised.
Yeah, and that's.
So if it's short and we can memorize it, that would be ideal. Or write it on your wrist if you're at an event.
Yeah. And this one, pretty darn short.
Yeah, we get it. Well, and that's the key items to remember are just local collaborative. For, working on wildfire risk, reducing wildfire risk in the county.
Local collaborative county.
Yeah, wildfire risk.
Wildfire risk.
So that's it, yeah, so if you just remember those key items, you're covered. And then if they ask further, because they ask, well, like, what does collaborative mean too? And then you just say agencies, local businesses, non-interest groups, and,
So what are we deciding, Kristen's definition or the Ken's definition?
Well, this was the one that we came up with as a group.
Right, yeah,
When we
but the one
put
that you
this
have on. your
Presentation
hand like
for
that.
the county commissioners.
yeah, do we want the local collaborative Ken's one in there? I don't care, it's the most thing.
I honestly think they both say the same thing. I just think yours is you're clumping all of those, you're grouping all of those last pieces into reducing wildfire risk, which is what prevention, preparedness, mitigation, all that stuff is. And I think that's easier to remember. And I think that's your point. And I think the communication team did all approve, didn't we all agree on that? So I guess unless someone else folks are opposed to that, then I say we just go with what we already have.
How about we keep this, but you can say a local collaborative. Working countywide. So like,
Yeah.
They both mean the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is shorter on the front end because it says local collaborative instead of listing all the agencies.
Right.
And the other one is shorter on the back end because it doesn't break down wildfire preparedness into pieces. But,
I think you're fine, just
I think
thinking of that, Kristen.
Okay. Alright, I think we can vote then.
Okay, so the vote is for the whole communication plan, not for this little definition of
Right.
it. Just-
That's the change in it from last time.
Yeah. And I think
There
Anna,
were no comments during the comment period we asked for since last meeting.
And it's totally is fluid too, it's not written in stone, if we start having a beef with something in this, then we change it, and it's not.
I mean, if you're concerned about length as well, you could also just have it printed on the back of, a member's business card. If you guys would like to do business cards one day, if you're wondering what you stand for, or if you're the lead
Yeah.
on one of the branches, you can print a business card and it can be on the back, and that's something that you can provide as well, so.
On the back of your name tag.
Well, it might be in a brochure.
putting a lot of faith in these magnetic name tags. If we went for the big name tags, we totally have done that.
I just say it. Okay.
All right, so if we're gonna vote, let's just see who are all the voting members. I think Anna counted and we count.
Well, yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5 maybe. in
Who all
there. I
think
mean,
that they are allowed to
agency's
vote,
not-
because Anna will nip it in the.
I'm saying I'm saying
Tell you what, if you want to do that.
I'm saying there's a lot of agency folks and we're not gonna vote.
No, I know. Yeah, so,
So I'm non-agency.
Yeah, you can learn.
yeah, so I think we'll just say if you vote for the communication plan, put up your hand, we'll count it if you're allowed to vote, and we won't count it if you're not.
Yeah.
That looks right, right? And
Yes.
six. Is there anyone on Zoom that can vote?
None of them want to do, they're all pretty much, I mean, they
I
are.
vote
Kimberly,
yes.
did you? Oh, Don, or, sorry, Rick is on. Kimberly, did you want to vote?
No, I don't need to vote.
Okay, so we got one on Zoom.
Okay, yeah, so,
Who was on Zoom?
Rick.
Right, so we have 7.
yeah, and did he vote? Did he say yes? Rick, you can just put a thumbs up if you want to say yes.
I vote yes.
Thank you. So that's 7. Okay, all right. So the communication plan is now approved. How long did that take? Because that started before I got here. Well done, the first official vote.
Yeah.
All right, Kristen, anything else?
No, that is it, unless there's any questions.
All right, well, the last item on the agenda is just projects or ideas. And that's not necessarily something that needs to come up for discussion now, but we just want to put it out there that we don't need to have these meetings and just deal with updates from all the teams. You know, we can be a group that someone can pitch an idea for a project, for a community, for a workshop or a demonstration or something like that we can put together that the council will benefit from and the community will benefit from. So think of ideas of things that we can plan or get community involved in. And I don't even have examples to think of, but you know, if we want to have a demonstration on how to burn your debris safely, right? Now that's a simple example, but you know, it's something that we can say we're going to get agency people out and people from the community come and we'll have grilled hot dogs or whatever, but you know, show how to burn debris safely. Or I know for a lot of communities, a chipper day is a common thing, but we don't have a chipper, right? But you know, things like that. Yep.
How to apply for a burn permit, or
Yeah.
We could even do apply for a burn permit sort of thing.
Yeah, or
there's so many new people in
Yeah.
this valley.
yeah, just something like that, you know, or we can even go bigger, you know, think of a project that we can plan to do in fall, you know, we can have working meetings where we plan it and put it together and put out flyers, you know, just yeah, just think of things that we can do as a group that we can be known for, right? This is what Fire in the Wood put together or did or you know put on.
That's a really good suggestion for our Facebook page. I mean, I know it's on the county, I know it's, but. So, you know, what is a burn permit? Why you cannot burn without one? Your neighbors will call the fire department and hopefully just go through that. That would be a great Facebook.
We do. We
And we
do
do
that.
post burn permit information on Facebook.
Website, but-
No,
No, we do several posts on, yeah,
We have lots.
we have lots of them in this
No,
room.
no, it's on the website, I know, but do they do a Facebook?
We need one
We
when
do.
it warms up.
No,
Yeah, we need to.
So we have lots of time then?
Yeah. Yeah, but those are things that, you know, we can keep up with, but yeah, think about that. And if you come up with an idea, email it to us, otherwise, you know, picture it at the next meeting, but if you email it to us in the meantime, we can start, you know, thinking about it and putting things in place. Just, you know, otherwise, we don't just want to deal with updates every week, you know, it'd be cool to be a working group where we can actually do something. So, yeah.
And I would just add, and Kristen mentioned it before, the Be Prepared Fair last month. There was a huge amount of people that came through there. I was shocked at how many people showed up, and it ended up being a real successful event. The organizers are talking about doing it again the same time next year. Hopefully it'll work out for them to get a little larger venue. I don't know if that's a different building, at the fairgrounds or maybe somewhere else, but I think there might be an opportunity with that maybe to do some, if there are some type of live demonstrations or something that a little more
Right.
space could have afforded us. And so again, we're talking a year out, but maybe just in the discussions, if something comes up that it would seem might be useful or appropriate for that kind of event, just keep it in the back of your
Yeah,
mind.
good idea.
And I recall, I guess I can bring her name up even though she isn't here, but Anne Marie. She talked some time back about being willing to help with chainsaw safety. I mean,
Yeah.
she's an expert in that area. And so if we did some kind of safe burning demonstration, maybe we could combine it with chainsaw safety.
Yeah.
Great. It's a good idea.
All right, well, thanks, yeah, that's a good idea.
I got one on for this develop the community on the NWCG standard of the ready, set, go.
The what?
So we don't use, Montana doesn't use that.
Well, it's by county. It's
Yeah.
what their evacuation process is, and so it's just county dependent, and here we're warning and order. And
Yeah.
same with like.
Okay, but that in itself could then be an information session on that and going over evacuation checklists and.
Signing up for the alerts.
Yeah,
Yeah, sign up for hyper reach, yeah.
yeah,
Where they can find that.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
all right,
It may be good to have the county sheriff involved in anything that we do.
Yeah.
On that, because they're the ones responsible for evacuation.
Yeah.
So, might think about that.
and they may also have ideas of,
Yeah,
okay, good. Yeah, keep thinking and send ideas our way, and I think it'd be pretty cool for us to do something like that.
I have a little project that I've been meaning to kind of bring up. I'm sorry I couldn't make the meeting here tonight. Under the behind the eight ball or under the gun and various projects, but as many of you know, I'm particularly interested in sort of the thermodynamics and resilience and carbon sequestration and these sorts of topics. And one thing that I'm particularly interested in is establishing a set of courses perhaps at Bitterroot College that are focused on sort of citizen science for thermodynamic resilience of the forest, the fuels reduction program. And so we have a lot of people in the valley now are participating in this fuels reduction program. And there's some very interesting things that they could be doing as citizen scientists on their properties as they are doing this forest fuels reduction to prepare the community to be more fully engaged with really assessing how effective these treatments are. I mean, we're going for it for sure. And I think that there's an interesting way to engage the community and citizen science programs to begin assessing the efficacies of this big program. So
Do you have you given thought to exact details on that?
I've given lots of thought to that and have basically a rough outline for a syllabus and also through various grants that I'm writing now for related topics. There's a nominal equipment list that would be interesting to get to people who, it's all volunteer, just like the forest fuels reduction program is in general. And it's entirely conceivable that
If you could get a package of instrumentation to people who are going through this program. Set of instruments less than $5,000 for a comprehensive set of instruments, and the methodologies for deploying those instruments and where to store the data and why to take it and how to take the data, that sort of thing.
Rick, would you want an agenda item at the next meeting?
No, not necessarily. I just wanted to throw
Okay,
this out to get it's a long-term program. We can get a few things started without much funding, but ultimately it's going to take some decent funding, and there's some grant opportunities out there to fund these sorts of things. So,
okay.
Hey, Rick, is there already a program in place? Is there already a working template in place? Like, is this being done elsewhere?
nope, nobody's doing it that I know of.
Sounds interesting.
Certainly not at scale. There may be some onesies and twosies out there, but now's the right time to start implementing something like that as we're really rolling out this program here in the Bitterroot, and I think there's some pretty interesting opportunities. So.
Thanks, Rick. I think that's good information, and yeah, keep in touch. I mean, if you don't want an agenda item, share some of that information with me or Judy, then we can see where we can go with that.
Right, because it's not complete, really.
Yeah.
It's like, what,
Yeah,
where would it fit?
yeah, let's start a conversation on that. Yeah.
I,
Thanks, Rick.
Would be really great because the Bitterroot has going for it. It's a watershed,
Yeah.
We've got a
Right,
real
yeah,
geographic
yeah.
entity that this would
Yeah.
work for.
Yeah, okay, cool. Anything else from anybody else? Oh, we're like 3 minutes
This is
early.
Kimberly. I put something in the chat if you all want to take a view at the chat there. There's a couple of opportunities through Montana State University. They're getting ready to offer a forest stewardship planning workshop, and viewing their website, they have all sorts of different opportunities, but there is one spot open in the Corvallis planned workshop, which I believe is like the 7th and the 8th and the 15th. It's a Thursday, Friday type workshop series, but really a really good education for anybody on the council that's interested. And there's the registration information, but that website is really fantastic. And there's a lot of folks on the Montana State University side as well as the U of M side that are really working to help folks understand the forest.
And this is the class they give on a regular basis that costs like $150. Something
Yep,
like.
and it's periodically, offered in different places. Yep, but Bozeman's full, Kalispell's full. There's a couple of other places that are full, but the Corvallis one just had a spot open.
Okay. Thanks, Kimberly.
You bet.
All right. Okay. Is that it? We can share that link in the newsletter, and if anyone's interested in that. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate everyone's participation. Look for my email in a couple of weeks with the notes and the agenda, and yeah, email us if you want anything to appear on the agenda. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye, Zoomers.